Ready, set. Many companies proclaim their desire for growth, yet they often neglect to define what that growth actually looks like. So, our guest today is John Chapman. He is an adjunct professor of sales leadership at North Carolina Sales Institute. I'm going to let him tell you more about that. But we're going to talk today about focusing on what really grows your business and not what it may not be what you're thinking. Okay. So before we get going, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that more people can get access to this kind of information. And yeah, be sure to put your biggest takeaways in the comment section. We are Nate and Simone. We talk all things marketing, and let's get going. Hey, John. Hey, Nate.
Hello, hello. Welcome, John. Welcome.
Glad to be
So
here.
yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about your favorite subject, I'm sure, is the go-to-market strategy. So this should be a good conversation, I think. Um, GTM, it kind of sounds, it's an
Another
interesting
It sounds like a
acronym,
car company.
exactly,
Yeah.
alphabet soup here. Yeah. So I guess tell us a little bit, just give us a brief background, who you are, how you got here, and we'll get rolling in.
Well, thank you, Nate. I mean, how do I just,
Yeah.
was a finance major in college and I had two job offers, one to sell and one to work in the finance arena. And the one to
Mm,
sell, I realized I could make so much more money, so
mm,
I chose sales. And then I worked for Stanley Black and Decker for almost 10 years. And it's interesting. I never had any formal sales training ever and worked for a Fortune 500 company. Not until I started reading Zig Ziglar and Neil Rackham. Oh, there's an actual sales process.
yeah.
And after leaving Stanley, I went to work for a very small company. And literally, this was a rinky-dink company in Greensboro, North Carolina. They did 11 million in sales, and I'm like, I remember saying to the guy who owned it, he really wanted to grow it. I said, we got to have a strategy. And so we sat down before he even accepted the job and, looked at his capabilities and realized that he had something really special. He just wasn't telling a very good story.
Mm,
And so our goal was to both grow organically and then be bought strategically. Uh,
mm.
and we did that over the course of 16 years and grew it from 11 to $500 million. And then in
Oof.
2008, sold it.
Nice.
And then from
Nice.
there, I answered an ad in the paper to teach a sales class at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Fell in love with teaching. The head of the marketing department said, sales is now becoming a minor or certificate at universities. And I said, really? So I did a little research and wrote a white paper on why universities should teach sales at the college level. And um, and
The
so they give
marketing
me,
guy's like, yeah,
well, it's fascinating because most colleges don't teach sales, and
yeah, yeah,
um, and one of my questions I always ask is what needs to be the biggest number on the P&L in order to make a profit,
hmm
and that's the revenue
hmm
line. You don't bring in revenue, guess what? You lose money and or you're out of business. So why not
hmm
teach it? So started it in 2013 and then um, left UNCG and started the sales leadership program at East Carolina University. And now it's the Twilly Academy at one of our alumni endowed it. I actually stepped down as director this year just to focus on my consulting and teaching, which I love. So been there in my fourth year and love it. So that's sort of my background. And
yeah.
when I got my MBA at Wake Forest, how I got into, you know, go-to-market strategy, one of the first classes we took was a class called strategy. I had
Mm.
never taken strategy, and a world-renowned professor um, taught it. And somebody asked, "What is strategy?" And so he gave us this problem that this company was facing. He went around the room and pointed at people and pointed at me, and I said, "Well, this is what I would do." And he said, "Well, that's pretty much what the company did." And I said, "Well, time out is this is what I do every day? Is look for spaces where I can marry up my value proposition with somebody else's." And he said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a corporate executive and VP of sales of this particular company." And I said, "Isn't sales and strategy the same thing?" And he said, "That's a great, great question." And I was the only, there was 55 souls in the class, mostly finance and HR people. They all were throwing, "Oh, sales is, this and that. And we hate salespeople, all this."
Yeah, yeah.
And so got in this huge discussion on the importance of really having a sales strategy and aligning it with your corporate strategy. And that's how I came up with the go-to-market strategy. And most of my consulting comes through my connections at Wake Forest. So
Mm.
started consulting God, right? He actually introduced me to a company up in Wausau, Wisconsin. I went up there and they did about 35 million in sales and started realizing that where they were spending their time, that's where I get into the 80/20, was in the wrong place. 20% of your customers make up 80% of your revenue. And so we did an exercise where we segmented it out and divided it into four quadrants, and those in the lower quadrants, well, I said give them big price increases and make them go away or fire them. And 2 years later, they were doing 55 million, and with basically they went from 102 customers to 38 and grew their business from 36 to 55 million. So what you
Wow.
focus on grows. That's at the end of the day.
Nice.
That's sort of how I got into, and I've refined it over the years. What exercise I do with companies. So I have a
Mhm.
lot of fun with it.
Awesome. So, as you may know, we talk about on this show a lot of three main things: visibility, viability, and value. And so, in this case, I'm just going to take a brief moment here to kind of tie it in with those pillars. Basically, having a clear GTM strategy helps to sharpen your message and your market focus, which is that visibility component, right? And viability, that means helps your teams stop second guessing and start executing because they know the plan, right?
Yeah.
And then value, focused growth, having a clear path, helps create predictability and around your revenue, right? So predictable revenue. That's what we're all about. So who wouldn't want that in their business? Okay, so 80/20. Speaking of, let's get into that. So why, in your opinion, John, do so many leadership teams fail to prioritize their top customers? You said that you had talked to a company and they axed a bunch of customers. They were left with, 30 so and increased their sales. So why are so many leadership teams fail to prioritize those top customers, in your
That's a
opinion?
great question. I would say most sales organizations, they're just not sophisticated. And what's interesting in my work is the formalization of sales as a function. It's like a nine string guitar player who can play music without notes. He learned by doing, and he's a damn good musician. But if you want to play in the symphony, you need to play with notes, and
Mm,
you need a conductor who makes everybody work together to play
mm,
complicated music.
mm,
And that's where everyone is on the same page. So the point is you've got to formalize the sales process. And in my work, that's what I do is formalize it. And you start looking at, what is your strategy? Who's your customer? What products do you sell? What's your competitive advantage? I call it what's your why? Um, how do you get the product to the end user? What does that business model look like, and what is your time frame at the end of the day of how you get there? So when I work with companies before I even visited them, I said I want you to send me your revenue lines by customer.
Mm.
And I do the 80/20 right then and there. And what I've found is they treat every customer the same. And a great example, about 3 weeks ago, I worked with a company and we did the 80/20. And what we were finding was when an order came in, it got in the queue. It was pretty about 6 week lead time. And so it would work its way through the queue. But if one of their best customers placed an order, they went to the bottom of the list and got into the
Mm.
queue. And so I almost describe it as this. Do you fly a lot, Nate?
Uh, like, you mean as a pilot or as a
No,
passenger?
no. Do you travel a lot?
I definitely have. Yes, my previous life was in international sales, so I've flown
All
a
right.
lot.
So
Yeah,
so you had status on what airline?
United.
United. So you were what I call a Super 80 customer. Now,
Mm,
when you got and checked in, you checked in, you didn't wait in line, you checked in,
that's
and
right.
you
Right to
know,
the front.
right in
Yeah.
the front, got to go to the lounge, and most times
Oh
you
yeah.
upgraded to first class. You were treated right. That's
Yeah.
what I call a Super 80 customer. You have
Mm,
to treat those customers like they're the most important people in the world. Now,
mhm,
this particular company was treating every customer the same.
mm.
And so if you flew United and had that status, you expected to be treated differently than everybody else that,
Oh
paid
yeah.
leisure travel. That's no different than any organization. You have to
Yeah.
treat your Super 80.
It
Um,
seems like something like air travel though, it's maybe more obvious, because you are, I guess the whole thing is like you're specializing in helping people along their path. And so why not? I don't know. Maybe it just seems more natural and more obvious to me. Maybe is that the reason why?
you
Like,
really have to sort of, when you do this exercise, there's some really aha moments here
okay.
because then, you talk about the lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
best customer you have is the one you already have. And
Boom. This is exactly what I said.
yeah, and you got to take care of those customers. Not that you don't want the C and D customers, but you have to treat them differently.
Yeah.
I do a business case in my sales leadership class, and it's about allocation. And you have a B customer gives you a big order. You have an A customer that gives you a big order, but you have this new customer that has great potential. And so you have to basically decide who you're going to take care of. Of course, you're going to take care of your A, but that B customer, you're going to that new customer out there that could become an A customer, you have to make some decisions and have conversations with your B customer on how you allocate at the end of the day that particular product category. So
Yeah.
it's
Like
it's
rewarding your best customers for continuing to stay with you, to spend with you, and for making those big orders and for consistently coming back,
yeah. Well, and I do an
building up
exercise
that loyalty.
where I make the sales team actually go through a process where I call it, we want to date them, they want to date us, and
Hmm.
ask all these questions and you know are they growing? Is profitability important? Do they collaborate? Do they call you with with innovation ideas? And you start plotting these customers. Are you easy to do business with? And those are the
Hmm.
kind of customers you want. They don't. beat you up over price or delivery. I mean, you just have an open and honest communication with them. You're going to treat them differently than the ones that, oh God, here comes ABC company, they place an order and they want it tomorrow,
Uh,
and then they beat us up over price
mm,
and ghost us when we're trying to get something going here. So it's
yeah.
you want to treat every customer just like we want to date them and they want to date us, and hopefully you marry those super 80s where you're truly integrating, you're innovating together. And I call it marrying up your value proposition with them to make something new
Mm.
um, for the marketplace.
So you're talking this fundamentally shifts and changes the whole sales and account strategy. Um, you know, when it comes to who are we going to target, how are we going to treat them differently, and so on and so forth, right? Is that
Yeah, yeah.
this?
I
Yeah.
mean, you have to ask yourself, all right, I have a great customers. What new products can I collaborate with them to help us grow? And then before you even invest in that new product, you already have a customer. Yeah, if you can hit this target price, we're all in. Let's work together on launching this product. Because you've heard the saying, salespeople ask, "What's keeping you up at night?" You know, when they talk to their
Right.
customer.
Yeah.
But I always ask, "What's keeping your client's customer up at night?" At the end of the day, and
Mm.
and what is your client? What are they asking your clients for?
Yeah, this
And
is
so
in
how do
B2B.
we solve your problem and
Yeah.
not my problem?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's sort of how
Another layer deep there.
yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend um, yesterday or the day before, and I was kind of going with him, kind of going back and forth with him about like what went wrong with his community. And one of the things that really came to me was that he stopped treating his client like they are the hero, and became the hero himself. And it's like, no, it really needs to come from them. They are the hero. They have to be the heroes to their clients. They are their own expertise. They have their own they have their own place in their expertise and their own place in their business. And we have to come along and be that guide to guide them to that new level, to that new place. And the tools that we're using are really just the tools to enable that. But they are their own heroes. They are the heroes in their story. And if we stop treating them like that, then they feel like, well, I don't belong here. I feel dumb. I'm in the wrong place. I'm never gonna get this, that kind of thing. So, um, so yeah, I like that, like going going a couple of levels deep because that client has their own clients and they want to be the guide to those clients. And
Hmm. Hmm.
if we don't treat them like they're the hero, then they're never going to get the benefit of whatever it is we're trying to offer them because they're going to feel like it's just not going to work for them.
When I work with, that's a great point, Simone. When I work with clients, I'll say, what are your top three goals? And then what are your customers' top three goals?
Mm.
And most of the time they don't match. And that's where that's where the real work begins. Sometimes they
Mm.
do,
Yeah.
because your client, everybody wants to grow their business, and grow it profitably. And 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 at the end of the day, it all gets down to helping them. Zig Ziglar said, "You help enough people reach their goals, you will reach your goals." It's no different. So, but it's fascinating when I do that exercise. This is one of the first things I do. What are your goals and what are your clients' goals? And there's usually a mismatch, and that's, basically, most organizations, they want to sell more and all this, some profit or bid, does that match up with what your client wants to do
Hmm.
at the end of the day? So,
Nice. So visibility improves when your messaging is built around the things that are really driving revenue, and your viability in a business improves when your resources are more aligned to those customers that matter most, and you're helping your customers help their customers, right? So
right.
that's okay. So let's get into the four paths of growth here. All right. So why is choosing a single growth path so uncomfortable for leadership teams, John, in your opinion?
So
Let's
what's okay? I'm
let's
sorry.
Yeah, so let's think about this here. The four there's an idea around go-to-market
Yeah,
growth
yeah.
paths, the different paths in
Yeah, so
GTM.
the real question is, you can sell more existing products to existing customers, and the question you ask is how can we increase the wallet share with our current customers? Sell existing products to new markets, and what new customers or regions fit our value proposition. Sell new products to existing customers.
Yeah,
What our customers are asking for that we don't currently provide. And then I call it new products, new markets. If we started from scratch, where would we play? And that's a half day exercise I do with clients, is really trying to understand, it's all about the levers, what products you have, what markets you have opportunities in, what existing customers you don't have the, full share of the wallet and want to get more of the wallet. So it's all questions you need to ask of your customer at the end of the day. And as Simone said, you're right, Simone, your client knows the answers to these questions, and you're just trying to, you know, get them to give you those answers, and they say, "Aha, I get it."
do you think that it's a good idea for a business to try to do all four of those things at once?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
It's really, you do it, in stages. I always tell people, don't let's not start chasing shiny objects here. Really. And I love Warren Buffett. I love to read about Warren Buffett because when Warren Buffett goes and talks to companies, he'll ask them, "What's your moat?" And your moat is, what is your competitive? Why do people do
Yeah.
business with you?
Yeah.
And what is your strengths? Weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And how does your moat, when you go out into the marketplace, do your salespeople have the right tools? Because it's won and lost out there in the marketplace. Are they the right team, the right tools? Do they have the right mindset? And at the end of the day, that's where it's won or lost, is out there in the marketplace. But you start where the company feels it can get the biggest bang for the buck. Again, I go back to 20% of your customers make up 80% of your revenue. How do you continue to grow that 20%? And how do you bring more of those, what I call super 80s, into that 20%? Because out there, there's customers out there that they're on your pursuit list, but what's the particular go-to-market strategy? Because I think an important point, Nate, that I want to bring up is every customer has a different strategy,
Yeah.
and that strategy is interactive and dynamic.
Are you
But
usually pushing your companies that you're working with to a certain strategy based on things like their capacity, team size, where they're at financially, et cetera,
yep,
what
yep,
they've,
and so you do a deep dive. This is some, here's what our strengths are.
Mhm.
And we should be doing more business in these areas. So why not? Why are we not doing business? and let's talk about it. Or it's, we want to launch a new product, and we want to talk to some of our key customers about this new product. Because, again, launching a product, there's some risk involved. But if you have already have a willing customer that's ready to buy it, then it makes it so much easier to invest.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the saying? If I have a food truck, I'm gonna want hungry customers,
Yeah, that's right.
'cause um so okay, so in this case then, do you find that it is the case where leadership teams are sometimes uncomfortable with picking and choosing a path rather than try to hit all four, Is
Yeah,
that an
yeah,
issue
and
or
great example. I'm working with a company now, and they launched a new product, and they know they need to add an accessory to that product, but they want to launch a third product.
Hmm,
So I took them through the paces of, what's the biggest bang for the buck short term, and it's developing this accessory for the product. That could be a bolt-on to this new product, and let's focus on doing that first before you launch this bigger project. You
hmm,
know, and I know the owner. She's an engineer. She likes to work on the big stuff, but I had to
hmm,
focus her on getting this accessory that they will sell a ton of, to bolt on to this new product that she launched. So, she vacillated, but I convinced her that this is the quickest path to more revenue growth, and she
yeah.
finally agreed. And so we'll talk tomorrow. I'm going to see if she's completed the project. Uh,
So in that case, it's like she's pretty ambitious being an engineer and thinking big picture and
yeah,
she wants to get
as you
into
know,
those. Yeah.
we always
Yeah.
we as people like to do the things we like to do,
Yeah.
and the things we don't like to do, it's
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Now, it's she just wanted to, build this new product, and I was like, we need to focus on completing this project and getting it done.
Do
Uh,
you find well, what happens then when a company is on a clear path in that case that after while they're working with you, like you've said, hey, this is where we need to go.
yeah, and I go back to what I said originally. Now you have a conductor, and you're in the symphony. This nine string guitar player doesn't quite fit into the symphony. And
Yeah.
so everybody's got to be in cadence, everybody.
Mm,
And I'm not including the salespeople, um, sales leadership within the company, operations, HR. Everybody's is marching to the same tune, because it takes a village, to buid a new product, or um,
yeah.
create opportunities in new markets. You can't
Yeah.
just like, oh wow, let's go sell, you know, Seattle right now. Let's go to Amazon, and you gotta put some strategies into that. A lot of companies, it's interesting, and I'm sort of going off stray here, but I tell people that Amazon's got all the transactional business. You think about, there used to be pot and pan salespeople that went door to door, and
Yeah.
they're no longer, because
Yeah.
that's what I call a transactional sale. And
Mm,
and that goes back to my point. If you're really going to do well in today's marketplace, you have to have a comprehensive strategy, and that
mm,
has to align with your sales strategy. They
yeah.
have to be aligned.
So so in that case, then how should in your opinion, how should marketing and sales change once their path is set then?
Well, marketing,
Is it a
marketing is really is they go out there, and they fish the ocean, and they really do, because
yeah.
it, they're the ones that are out there, casting the big wide net, and then they
Hmm.
pass it over to sales to qualify that particular lead to make it a prospect and hopefully a customer one day. So
Yeah.
they have to be aligned. Everybody in the organization, not just marketing,
Yeah.
OpEx, HR, everybody's going to be in the same alignment as here's we're going to launch this new product or we're going to go into this new market. So what are the things that we need to do to make us successful?
All right. So viability helps you to focus, and it's kind of based on focus and capacity, and not necessarily your personal ambitions.
Yeah,
And then having clear growth paths helps to reduce friction across marketing, sales, and delivery. So it's a beautiful, beautiful tie in there to viability. Okay, now let's get into customers. If your top customers left, could you explain why you deserve them? All right. So, um, all right. So why do teams struggle to clearly articulate their value? Do you find this to be the case, John?
I do. And because again, it goes back to what's your moat.
Hmm.
And you really have to understand your value proposition. And you work with companies. What happens is first thing people say, "What is your price?" And you have to really understand your value. There's two things though. There's the price you pay and the cost. And you say, well, what's the difference? And the price you pay is what you pay. Cost is a lifetime thing. So if your cost is more
Mm.
expensive, you have to articulate the value over the lifetime of that particular service or product you're selling. What is the benefit, financial benefit to that customer? So I always say price is a one-time thing, cost is a lifetime thing. And people, somebody's, I just want the cheapest price. But if you're good at articulating your value proposition and understanding the benefits, the economic benefits to that particular buyer, then you have to, explain it. And most buyers, you know, don't want to change. You know, Nobody's complaining about this product, I'm not getting any pushback, but you have to, as a good seller, have to explain the economic benefit of your product or service better than what I call the incumbent. And that takes time. That takes a real strategic thinking. You can't just call them, hey, I'm Joe Blow with ABC account, and I'm here to sell you a widget. Well, I already buy widgets. You have to come in with a clear and concise strategy on how you're going to displace that incumbent.
Yeah.
Hard to do, but you
That's
have to.
that's where that diagnosis comes in,
Yeah,
where we diagnose the problem first before we prescribe you a pill.
yeah, that's right. And really, it's getting that. There's a great. One of my good friends owns a trucking company, and they got into Costco, and the salesperson would of course get the buyer's contact information and was calling the buyer, and of course the buyer never picked up. So you have to think of a way to get their attention. And what he did was he after church on Sunday he would go to Costco with his wife, and his wife loved strawberries. And so he went to the Costco in Greensboro, North Carolina, and there was no strawberries. And so he called the buyer up and said, I'm just going to say, Nate, you were the buyer. He says, Nate, this is John, with ABC Trucking Company. Just left church, and as our tradition, my wife and I went to the Costco in Greensboro, North Carolina, and there were no strawberries, and my wife loves strawberries, and happy happy wife, happy life, and I just want you to know that. And so the following Sunday, he went back to, after church, went to Costco. There were no strawberries. Left him a very similar voicemail, again, Nate, was at Costco and didn't see any strawberries. And I would just really appreciate if you'd help me out here, and because my wife loves your strawberries. Well, the third week there were strawberries. They called the buyer up and said, Nate, thank you so much. After church, my wife and I went to Costco and there were strawberries, and I really appreciate you looking out for me. She is so happy with me right now. Unbelievable. And guess what? He got a phone call from the buyer. So you just got to think of these, how do you get through to that buyer, with stories. Stories sell and humor sells, and he got through because, he told a great story. And so the buyer said, okay, I'll give you a chance. Tell me what you got, and now they do business with Costco.
Excuse me, do you ever find do you ever find it to be the case where companies can actually have success with selling their products or their services, but they can't really articulate the value? Is that ever a thing?
Yes,
Okay.
it's because, like I said, one of the first things is, what are your goals? What are your clients' goals? And they don't match. And I said,
Mhm.
why do they do business with it? Well, we're really good salespeople. But I
Yeah.
said, what if you sold, dog doo-doo in a bag? Would they
Yeah.
still buy it? No, there's a reason they buy it. There's some value there that
Yeah. Yeah.
you can articulate. So,
Yeah.
why did they buy you over, somebody else? And so let's articulate that in such a way that it's, again, there's features and benefits. Features are something undeniable, but a benefit is an emotional to the buyer. They're loyal to the brand. It's a Nike brand, and I see you got a Patagonia, vest
I
on.
know.
Yeah.
I was thinking about trying to hide that.
You need GHD Unlimited on it, and
I know. I need to get one. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's and every benefit, a feature turns into a benefit, and the
Yeah.
benefit's different for every buying situation, and that's another
Yeah.
important thing. I can't emphasize benefits
Yeah.
around stories sell.
Is it like the type of thing where sometimes, hey, we just like the salesperson, or it's like the insurance industry? It's like we required to have it by law.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Like-
there are companies like that. I tell a
Yeah.
great
And
story
that's
about Simpson Strong Tie. Simpson Strong Tie bends metal, probably cost
Okay.
them a nickel to make, but they went and they spec'd it out in Florida to all the municipalities that this was, and got it patented, a hurricane tie.
Nice.
And so every home that was built in Florida had to buy this, for 7 years, they had the patent on this piece bent of metal that went, hung in the rafter, that cost them, like I said, a nickel. I don't know what they sold it for, but they
Wow.
made a fortune getting it spec. But again, you gotta, knowing your moat,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Simpson, Strong Tie knew what their moat was. And all right, how are we going to marry up strategy and sales? And that's how they did it.
Yeah. In that case, then the salesperson just shows up and says,
Yeah, I
"Hey,
mean, and
how
yeah,
many you want?"
yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah.
I don't work on
Yeah.
Fridays, so just email me an order. So but that
Yeah.
just
Right.
just
Yeah. Show up, take them out to dinner every once in a
yeah,
while, and be good to go. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
My middle child works for Google. I go, what's that sales call like? And I said, well, it's changing now with ChatGPT,
yeah.
but the sales call is, he'll ask, what's your budget? It doesn't even,
Yeah.
there's no
Right.
selling.
Yeah. Um, okay.
Complaining about
So,
that.
is it ever the case where you encounter the situation where a company's GTM strategy is more like a wish list?
Yeah,
Is that,
and that's when I, again,
yeah.
let's not chase shiny objects. Let's go through the process. What are we good at and what are we not good at? What kind
Yeah.
of resources do we have? And how do we become better at what we're really good at? And
Hmm.
again, that the story about this company that had 102 customers losing money is they were chasing stuff that they didn't need to be chasing. They made highly engineered product and they were trying to play in the commodity game.
Hmm.
Mm,
Let's sell the highly engineered product to those customers that want to do business with us on highly engineered product. It was
Yeah.
a wake up moment, and let's get rid of that, commodity business. So
Yeah.
yeah, so was their wish list they wanted to sell everybody? Yes, but they have to
Mm.
focus on what they did well.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It
Okay.
the old days, it's they hire a sales, but go forth and multiply. Just go out and sell.
Yeah.
And now it's again it's formalizing the sales process around everybody in the same cadence, and we
Yeah.
have to have a coherent strategy.
We know why we're here. We know what we're saying. We
Yeah,
know who we're
yeah,
talking to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek said,
all
what's
the
our
whys behind it.
yeah.
Yeah, what's all the whys behind it?
Yep. Perfect. All right. So being visible, having visibility, strong positioning comes from when you understand why customers choose you. And then clarity in your messaging helps to improve your conversion and your retention. Unless you're, huge companies or your product are spec'd in, and then it's no,
That's
don't
right.
worry about it. But
Yeah, Procter and Gamble is Procter and Gamble.
yeah. Okay. So let's get into once we have that strategy, what the heck do we do with it? So, when you're working with companies, John, what's the first tangible shift you see when that GTM strategy clicks and all of a sudden
Well,
now we're
it's
cooking with
really they
grease?
they finally realize they know what they're really good at.
Yeah.
And so now let's put together, you got existing customers and we plotted out where our customers sit on the spectrum. And you may have good customers that are small customers. You still want to take care of them as well. But again, it's let's treat, your again the 80/20, what I call the super 80, the A's, the double A's, let's treat them differently than the B, what they call BBs and CCs customers. But let's also understand, where they're at in the spectrum, because like I said 3 weeks ago when I there was that big aha moment is we're treating every customer the same. So no, we got to treat each customer differently. That's the
Mm,
first aha moment they have. It's because you got to take care of that Super 80. And then, okay, from there, how do we go deeper with that Super 80 and wider? And then how do we take the what I call the AA customers, so not Super 80s, how do we make them Super 80s? What is the strategy around that for each customer? And then as we work through the customer list, who out there, who do we not do business with now that we should be doing business? Let's put a playbook strategy around those type of customers. It's a marketing play and it's a sales play. So
hmm.
that's again where marketing and uh,
Yeah.
sales align.
B- But you like one of the first things you're working on is, who we selling to now and how can we
Yeah,
improve that experience and use that as a sort of a low-hanging fruit, get some
yeah,
revenue generated there. Yeah. Um, okay. So once that strategy is set, then do you work with leaders on how to, keep the teams, in line on
yeah,
around that or?
yeah. Because do we, do they have the right tools? Are they are they a farmer or a hunter? Do
Mhm.
you need a hunter out there or do you need a farmer? And that's some of the first things we discuss. And based on that, okay, what are we looking for? What kind of activities um, do we want them to be doing? And do they have do they have the capabilities to do those activities?
Sorry, just to clarify, this is what you're saying to the leaders about the teams.
Yeah,
Like this is getting them to think about who's on their
yeah,
team.
yeah,
And yeah, okay,
yeah. Do we
gotcha.
have the right people on the bus, and do they have
Yeah.
the right tools to get us to where we need to go? And do we have are they going to see when I was leading sales organizations, I was all about activities because activities lead, revenue is a lagging indicator. You know,
Hmm.
people get paid on revenue, but it's a lagging indicator. So if somebody missed their number in a quarter, but they were doing the right activities, I would back them. I wouldn't beat them up too much. Matter of fact, I'd take the corporate. Because I knew the revenue would come in the next quarter. But
Hmm.
if they were not doing the right activities, then I would have a problem with that. So it's all about
Yeah.
what are the activities that we need your sales team to be doing
Yeah.
to increase our sales, new products, whatever that is, new markets. From
Yeah.
there, what are we going to be looking at? What KPIs are we going to be looking at?
Yeah.
Again, revenue is a lagging KPI, and I have to
Hmm.
discuss what are those, is it demos, per week, per month, whatever that is. But every day, every week, every month, what are those activities we are looking at to get us to where we need to go?
Activities, sales activities and
Sales
things
activity.
related in that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Revenue generating activities.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely,
Talking to
absolutely.
customers, beating the pavement, getting out
Yeah,
there. Yeah. Doing the
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
looks like to them. Again, I'm
And
working with this company that's in the 3D printing space
yeah.
is yeah, and everything is all incoming. So I'm getting them to start thinking about outgoing. Who are three strategic customers that you don't sell now that we need to be talking to?
Yeah.
So we're starting that exercise and putting a playbook together.
Mm.
Because let's start being a little bold out there and um, go after some business.
Hmm. Gotcha. Nice. Okay, so in that case, then, are you working with the companies, the teams, team leaders especially, on realizing and understanding the cost of delay in this case? Delaying this work, putting this together, implementing the strategy. Well, first off, creating the strategy, then implementing it, right? Like, is this part of what you do then as well?
Well, it goes back to selling 101. There's an
Yeah.
opportunity cost for doing it, an opportunity cost for not doing it, and
Mm,
whatever is the most pain at the end of the day. You sort of have to, when you're selling consulting services, is it's hard to quantify, but a great example is is really getting into is to what are the sort of the milestones you're looking for, and let's my job is to help you hit those milestones. If you hit
mhm,
those milestones, then we're working together well. And so if I put a 4-month engagement together, what are the milestones? Now, sales doesn't happen overnight. All of a sudden you
mhm,
don't double your business. You just don't. It takes time to build it. But it's start off, baby steps, and then by the end of my engagement, they're sprinting. Yeah, I sort of know when I'm done, and I'll tell them,
mhm,
I think you've got this now.
mhm,
Let's do a pro bono year out, see how you're doing, or 6 months out. Just
mhm.
chat to see what's working, what's not working, and what do we need to improve. So
So, or do you find yourself more focused then in that case on the return on the investment in terms of how you're helping them to achieve their milestones and their goals
yes,
rather than
yes,
focusing on the
yeah, yeah,
costs of not doing it?
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's quantifiable.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Hmm.
that's what I'm looking for is,
Yeah.
again, revenue is a lagging indicator. So,
Hmm.
if you're selling widgets and you want to grow your business you may not grow your business in 4 months, but the tool, the formulation of the sales process will be in place, and we're tracking the activities that will lead to future sales. And at the end of the day, I worked with a company, a small little company, pro bono, and the young man, he sells herbs to restaurants. And I said, "What's your biggest problem?" He said, "Well, they don't speak English." And I
Hmm.
said, "Why don't you take a picture of the herb and what it goes with?"
Hmm.
And he goes,
Hmm.
"Genius, And and I mean, I just talked to him because I check with him once a month how he's doing, and he's gone from 20,000 to 30,000 in a year, so he's really happy. And he doesn't, he's a stay-home dad, and his wife's got the big job, but I have a lot of fun with what he's doing. So he grew his business to $10,000, so good for him.
Yeah. It's all relative, right?
Just by putting pictures on the and I challenge him because there's restaurants he hasn't called on yet, and oh, I
Mm,
just haven't found the time. I said, how long is it going to
Hmm.
take? 5 minutes, 10 minutes just to make a sales call.
mm,
Oh,
Right.
you're right.
mm.
So salespeople are reluctant. From time.
Yeah. Part of that cost, I suppose, is time in that case. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
hey, focus on the
Not letting them
benefits.
face the nose. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so businesses that are with a focused GTM strategy then are able to scale more predictably. I think that's part of the lesson here. And
Yep.
then having buyers, but your buyers value clarity, repeatability, and disciplined growth. So that's all part of building a valuable business.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Um, Fantastic. We are at the end here pretty much. Let's do a wrap up, recap, etc. I think one of the key ideas here is that growth comes from being focused, um, and not necessarily having a bunch of activity just for activity's sake, but that activity, there's a reason why you're doing those things, and
Yep. Absolutely.
it stems from the strategy, right?
Yep.
Um, and then having a go-to-market strategy is a choice, and it's important to think of it more not so much as a wish list, but this is the thing that we're actually going to do, and this is our plan of attack, and this is the reason why we're doing it, right? Um,
Everybody's marching in cadence.
yeah, yeah. And then having clarity, once you achieve that clarity around, the goals, everyone is singing from the same book, um, that helps to bring your team together and you know puts the pedal to the metal, as they say, right?
Yep.
All right. Very good, very good. So you can learn more about John's work at www.jlchapmangroup.com. As always, if you are bumping up against your growth ceiling, then take the growth ceiling assessment. There's a link in the notes there, in the description. And of course, subscribe to our wonderful Revenue Rocket podcast here. Uh, if
Always
you
a
like these types of
pleasure.
conversations. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for being here with us today. And if you learned something today, put your biggest takeaway in the comments. Let us know what you think. And of course, like Nate said, visit John at his website, jlchapmangroup.com. The link will be in the notes. And we'll see you next week. Have a great day.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.